Okay, so we talked about gates, and we understand how they function, how they open and close, and how to adjust the parameters so that we can get them to do that in a musical way. But there's a button sometimes that we see on consoles that, again, it might be intimidating, but it's this SC or sidechain button or listen or key. It's labeled in different ways, but it all kind of means the same thing.
Yeah. So
why don't you guys talk about what that means and how you've used it?
Well, I think I put a remark down somewhere that I told Lee, and I think it was something about sidechaining gates. And my comment was something like, why don't you just learn how to use a real gate, stupid? Like that kind of thing.
From the guy who didn't understand what gates were for the first 10 years of his
Well, now
career.
that I do know how gates work, I'm an elitist, so it's fine.
There you go.
But I was just like, why don't you just learn how, I've never been comfortable with this, why don't you just learn how a gate works? And so he's like, allow me to tell you what we've been doing. So here's what you told me.
And this is like recently.
Yeah, so he's figured this out recently or started doing it. So tell them kind of what you told me.
I was born this way. I had it. Just kidding.
In the Monte Carlo?
In the Monte Carlo.
Got it.
Okay, so on this console, it's external key, right?
Okay.
So the problem with toms especially is, well, anything, it doesn't matter. If you put a gate on a tom mic, the microphone is really dumb. It's not just going to open when the tom input level crosses the threshold.
Right.
If the snare drum hit makes the tom mic threshold.
But I labeled it tom.
It does not matter.
It is dumb.
I clap my hands over that thing and it's going to open, right?
So this happens a lot because a snare drum will open a rack tom.
A cymbal.
A cymbal will open a floor tom, and sometimes if you have a lot of high-end boost on your floor tom, then your cymbals sound like, what in the world just blew up?
It's horrible, right? Well, there are these things called triggers, and this is where the revolution started. The trigger is attached to the side of the drum, and it's waiting for vibration, okay? Once the vibration happens, it sends a signal to the trigger. That trigger is inserted into the snake just like any other microphone.
Like an input.
Like an input. We're not replacing drums here. Don't get sidetracked. A lot of people hear trigger and they think drum replacement. This isn't what this is at all.
This is just another tool.
It's another tool.
It's just a mechanical...
Yes. These are Roland triggers that we use. Right beside tom 1 on the console is trigger 1. The gate of tom 1 is set to external key from the trigger. So now...
So it's just a route.
Yes. So now the gate on the tom mic does not look for signal from the tom mic. It's looking outside of the signal to another channel, and you can tell it whatever you want it to be. In this case, we're using this trigger. So now what happens is, the only time, and I mean only, that microphone opens up for signal is when the trigger of the other channel senses vibration, which is only when the tom gets struck.
Right. So he explains this to me, and I'm just silent. And I kind of thought about saying, like, you should respect your elders or something like that. I didn't. I'm glad I didn't.
Thank you.
You know, He says that to me, and I'm like, huh. We've got a bunch of D-drum triggers, which are not quite as high grade as what they're using, but we had them, and they work and all that. So I threw some on the toms, and I'd add a little snare gating going on, so one on the snare. And let me tell you something. I say this with all humility. I think my comment via text to you was, this is going to be a hard one to admit.
That's exactly what you said.
I was wrong in my curt little statement about, why don't you just learn to use gates better? I'm a believer. It was unbelievable how it works. And it was so simple.
Very simple.
I mean, really simple. Like, literally almost just turn the gate on, listen to the side chain from the sensor, the trigger, and you're done. And it was gorgeous. And the drummer, who's a studio drummer, professional drummer, plays all the time, noticed, because my mix is going to his ears, and he's like, I don't know what you've done, but this sounds like I'm in a huge rock show, and so whatever you've done is great. All I did was hit the sidechain button on the gates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally it. So it's a really cool, like, eureka moment.
Well, the cool thing about the trigger is that it's dumb too.
Right.
So you don't have to dial in tonality. No. You don't have to worry about what it sounds like. It's just listening for.
It's just, yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's dumb to our advantage.
Right.
Where the microphone's dumb not to our advantage.
You've got to be smarter than the microphone. Yes. You don't have to be smarter than the trigger.
So if you see that and you have a little time to mess around with it, and some of this stuff, it really is kind of it's something that could actually solve a lot of problems for a lot of guys who are perhaps dealing with different drummers every weekend or every time they do a service. If you do this, it kind of solves all that. Or maybe you don't have a lot of time to do a sound check.
Yeah, or it helps solve an inconsistent player.
Yes.
Because if you're relying on them to really give you a lot of stick to open up that gate, this doesn't take that into account as much.
There's also triggers that even work off of light. So it's a infrared or some type of light trigger.
It's like a little tiny laser in there.
And it's waiting to sense vibration of the top of the drum head, and then it opens.
And you can actually control the threshold of those to actually adjust it for what kind of vibration.
Guys,
it can get as intense as you want
to.
I want to go back to the Monte Carlo.
Sharks and laser beams.